The tall glass tower of the Zerath Corporation stood in the middle of the alien city, glowing blue and gold under the night sky. Inside, machines hummed softly, lights blinked across panels, and alien workers in elegant robes moved through the halls. And there, at the very bottom floor, a man named Ethan Cole mopped the floors in silence. He wore a gray jumpsuit with a small patch that said maintenance. His hands were rough from years of cleaning chemicals, and his eyes looked tired but kind. Every night he came to clean when the others had left. No one noticed him. No one cared. To most aliens, humans were just workers, useful but unimportant. But tonight felt different. The air outside the tower was tense. News screens showed strange activity at the edge of known space, ships vanishing, colonies going silent. The aliens whispered about it in their language, a complex, clicking tongue that no human could speak or understand. At least, that's what they believed. Ethan pushed his mop across the polished black floor, humming softly. He wasn't just mopping. He was listening. From the top floor, faint echoes of alien voices came down the hall. He paused for a moment, eyes narrowing. The words were sharp, fast. He recognized the tone of anger. He didn't mean to listen, but one word caught his ear. Human. A group of alien executives rounded the corner. They were tall, with silver blue skin and narrow, glowing eyes. Their leader, Director Varel, had smooth scales on his head that shimmered like glass. He walked with pride, surrounded by his aides. As they passed, one of them said in their alien tongue, "I don't understand why they keep hiring these earthborn cleaners. They smell like dust and speak like children." Another laughed, adding cruelly, "Maybe they enjoy serving their betters. It's all they're good for." Ethan's hand froze on the mop handle. His eyes darkened, his jaw clenched. He had heard those words many times before in every job on every planet. But tonight something inside him snapped. He turned slowly, his voice calm but cold. "Careful what you say," he said, in their language. The sound of it filled the corridor like thunder. The aliens stopped walking. Every single one turned to him, wide-eyed, their tails twitching with shock. "Repeat that," Varel demanded, stepping closer. Ethan looked up, meeting his gaze without fear. "I said," he spoke again, perfectly fluent, every tone precise, "be careful what you say." The silence that followed was heavy. The aides stared at him like he had just performed a miracle. No human had ever spoken their language, especially not with such flawless pronunciation. Varel's mouth opened slightly. "Who taught you our tongue?" "No one," Ethan said simply. "Just a janitor with good ears." A nervous murmur spread among the aides. One of them whispered, "That's impossible. Humans don't even have the vocal cords to make those sounds." But Ethan had just done it effortlessly. Varel stepped closer, studying him. "You've been working here for 3 years," he said slowly. "I have seen your record. You never even requested an upgrade implant. How did you learn this?" Ethan gave a small smile, though his eyes stayed distant. "Languages aren't that different," he said. "You listen long enough, you start to understand what people really mean, even when they don't say it out loud." The aides shifted uncomfortably. One of them activated a small wrist device, secretly recording the moment. The system scanned Ethan's voice, comparing it to alien speech patterns. The result flashed in green, 99.8% accuracy. Varel looked at the result, then back at Ethan. "Remarkable," he said, "but dangerous. You realize what you've done? That language is restricted by council law." "I didn't break your law," Ethan replied softly. "I just spoke the truth." For a long second, no one moved. Then Varel nodded to his aides. "Clear the corridor. Leave him." As they walked away, one of them glanced back at Ethan, fear written across her glowing eyes. The janitor watched them disappear into the elevator, then sighed and leaned on his mop again. The hallway returned to silence, but Ethan's world had just changed. From the shadows, a cleaning drone hovered near the ceiling, recording everything. Its small red light blinked twice, transmitting the footage to an unknown source. Within minutes, the video began spreading through the internal network of the city. By morning, billions would see it. A human janitor speaking fluent alien. And somewhere in the dark, someone who knew Ethan's past would whisper, "They found him." Ethan had spent years hiding from who he used to be. But fate, it seemed, had just mopped its way back into his life. He looked at his reflection in the polished floor and muttered, "Guess the quiet life's over, huh?" The hum of the building answered him. Outside, lightning flashed over the alien city like a warning. Something big was coming. And this time the man who once cleaned their floors might be the only one who could save them. The next morning, the city woke to chaos. Across glowing hollow screens and shimmering data walls, one video dominated every channel, a human janitor, standing in the middle of the Zerath Corporation hallway, speaking fluent alien. The clip spread faster than light. Every alien who saw it froze in disbelief. Some called it fake. Others whispered about forbidden experiments on humans. And deep in the upper floors of the company, Director Varel watched it again and again, his glassy eyes unreadable. Down below, Ethan Cole sat in the maintenance room, his mop leaning against the wall. His face was calm, but inside his heart raced. He had tried to live quietly. He had promised his daughter a safe life. Now the entire city knew his face. His work tablet blinked. Suspended until further notice. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew this day would come someday. He had just hoped it wouldn't be now. Back home, his small apartment was filled with the soft hum of old tech. A faded photo of Earth hung by the window. Green hills under blue skies. His daughter Lena was sitting on the couch, a blanket around her shoulders, watching the news. She was only 8, with big brown eyes and a small scar near her left eyebrow, an old wound from their escape years ago. "Dad," she said quietly, "that's you, isn't it?" Ethan knelt beside her and switched off the screen. "Yeah, sweetheart, it's me," he said softly. "They know now, don't they?" she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Maybe, but don't worry. I'll keep you safe, always." He stood and looked out the window at the alien skyline. Bright blue ships glided through the air and massive towers glowed like crystal spears. Somewhere in that cold beauty, someone had recognized his voice, and that meant danger. Years ago, before becoming a janitor, Ethan had been part of Project Meridian, a secret Earth research mission. Their goal, to decode alien languages through artificial intelligence. But when the Galactic Council discovered humans were trying to access protected communication, the project was shut down, and everyone involved vanished. Some were arrested. Some disappeared. Ethan had taken his daughter and run. Now the very thing he had hidden, his gift with language, had brought him back into the open. A sharp knock on the door broke his thoughts. Ethan tensed. Few people knew where he lived. He motioned for Lena to hide in her room. Then he opened the door halfway. Standing there was Director Viril himself, dressed in dark robes, his silver skin glinting under the hallway light. 2 guards stood behind him, but their weapons were lowered. "May I come in?" Varel asked in his calm, deep voice. Ethan hesitated, then stepped aside. "I didn't think executives did house calls," he said. Varel looked around the small apartment. Clean, simple, human. "I had to see you," he said. "That was no accident last night. You understood us perfectly." Ethan crossed his arms. "Guess my ears are sharper than you thought." Varel's expression didn't change. "Don't mock me, human. I ran your speech pattern through our archives. The last time someone spoke with that accuracy was during the war." Ethan froze. "You were in the war?" "I fought near the edge of your system," Varel said. "We intercepted transmissions from humans then. You people shouldn't have known our codes. And yet," he looked at Ethan sharply. "You do." Ethan stayed silent. Varel stepped closer. "Tell me something, janitor. Are you the last of them? The ones who tried to bridge our languages?" Ethan looked at the floor. "Those people don't exist anymore." Varel's gaze softened slightly. "Perhaps. But you still do." He placed a small device on the table. A faint light projected a hologram, lines of alien symbols flickering like static. "We've received a new signal," Varel said. "No one can decode it. It's not ours. It's not yours. But it's coming from deep space. We believe it's a distress call or something worse." Ethan frowned, staring at the pattern. He didn't want to get involved, but something about the shapes felt familiar. His eyes narrowed as he saw the repeated symbols, like echoes of a voice he once studied long ago. "I can't help you," he said quickly. "I'm done with that life." Varel leaned in, his tone quieter. "You can help, or you can wait until whoever sent this arrives. And if they're enemies, your daughter won't have a world to grow up in." Ethan's breath caught. Varel knew. He knew about Lena. "How do you know about my daughter?" he asked coldly. Varel's gaze didn't waver. "Because I used to have one too." he said softly. And I lost her to a war no one understood. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan nodded slowly. Fine, I'll look at your signal. But after that, we're done. I'm not your translator. I'm not your hero. I'm just a father trying to protect his kid. Vrel's eyes glowed faintly as he stood. We'll see, Mr. Cole, he said. We'll see. When the door closed behind him, Ethan sat back down, staring at the faint hologram still dancing on the table. The alien symbols pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat, and deep in his mind a memory stirred of a time before fear, when he believed language could unite worlds. But this message felt different. It didn't sound like a cry for help. It sounded like a warning. Rain fell over the shining alien city, washing the lights into long streaks of blue and gold. Hover cars floated through the mist. News screens still replayed the same video, a human janitor speaking alien. For most, it was entertainment. For others, it was fear. Inside his small apartment, Ethan Cole sat at the table, the hologram still flickering. His daughter Lena was asleep in the next room, her small hand clutching the stuffed alien toy he had repaired for her from scrap. The sound of the rain helped her sleep. It didn't help him. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't slept. He kept staring at the alien symbols hovering over the table. Strange, rhythmic, almost alive. They pulsed in patterns that felt like breathing. Each time he looked, his mind itched with half-remembered sounds, like voices calling from deep space. Then, a sharp knock came at the door. Ethan tensed. He looked through the peephole. This time, no guards. Only Director Vrel standing alone in the rain, his silver-blue skin dimly glowing. Ethan opened the door halfway. You again, he muttered. Didn't we already talk? Vrel stepped forward, uninvited but calm. You said you would look at the message. I've come for your answer. Ethan sighed, glancing at the flickering hologram. I did more than look, he said. I listened. He turned the hologram brighter and Vrel leaned in. The symbols rotated, forming sound waves. A low hum filled the room, alien, distorted, layered with whispers. It's not a distress call, Ethan said quietly. It's in something else. What do you mean? Vrel asked, frowning. Ethan pointed at the repeating sequence. This part isn't a word. It's coordinates. The symbol here, it's not alien. It's machine code, Vrel stiffened. Machine? You mean AI? Ethan nodded. But not like anything we know. This isn't just a message. It's a warning broadcast. Whoever sent it was trying to warn someone before they died. The sound deepened, echoing like metal grinding. A faint voice slipped through the static, neither human nor alien, but hauntingly clear. We are the last. The swarm comes. It learns your voices. Vrel stepped back, eyes wide. The swarm? He whispered. Ethan shut off the hologram. You know that name? Vrel hesitated. Old myths, he said. Tales told to frighten children. A machine species that consumed entire star systems centuries ago. The council says they were destroyed. Ethan's voice hardened. Or maybe they just stopped talking because there was no one left to talk to. The room went silent except for the rain tapping against the window. Vrel looked at Ethan, his calm mask breaking for the first time. If this is true, we must bring it to the Galactic Council at once. Ethan shook his head. No, they won't listen to a janitor. They didn't listen when Earth warned them decades ago. They'll call it a hoax. Vrel's jaw tightened. Then I'll tell them myself. Ethan gave a tired laugh. You, an executive? You think they'll believe you over the Council's own scientists? Perhaps not, Vrel admitted. But I have influence. And I have you. I'm not your translator, Ethan snapped. I told you I just want to protect my daughter. Vrel looked toward the closed bedroom door. Then do this for her. If the swarm is real, there will be no city left to hide in. Not for humans. Not for anyone. Ethan clenched his fists. He wanted to say no. He wanted to tell Vrel to leave, to forget the whole thing. But Lena's face flashed in his mind. Her sleepy smile, her small voice asking if he could keep her safe. He sat down slowly. If we do this, we do it my way, he said. No labs, no council rooms. I'll decode it here off the grid. You get me access to every old signal you can find. Vrel nodded once. Agreed. Ethan turned the hologram back on. The patterns changed again, lines forming like constellations in motion. As he watched, he began to understand the rhythm. It wasn't random. It was a countdown. He looked up sharply. This isn't just a warning. It's a timer. Vrel's eyes glowed faintly. How long? Ethan stared at the symbols. They pulsed 5 times, paused, then again. 5 rotations, he murmured. That's 5 standard cycles. 5 days, Vrel whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. In 5 days, whatever sent this arrives. Outside, thunder rolled across the alien sky, echoing like the growl of something ancient and hungry. Vrel turned to the window, watching the storm. Then we don't have time, he said. The council will mock us until the sky burns. We'll need proof. Ethan looked back at the message, the symbols still beating like a pulse. He felt a chill run through him. If you want proof, he said softly, look up when the first ship goes dark. Vrel's expression hardened. Then we prepare, he said, turning to leave. When the door closed, Ethan leaned against the table, breathing hard. He looked at Lena's door again. She was still sleeping, peaceful, dreaming of safe worlds that no longer existed. He whispered to himself, 5 days. I can fix this. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. He wasn't sure if this time anyone could. Outside, the rain turned red under the neon sky. Far above, something moved among the stars, silent, mechanical, and listening, and it had already learned the sound of his voice. Night fell heavy over the alien metropolis. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and glowing with reflected neon light. The city looked peaceful, but high above, in the quiet sky between stars, something stirred. In his small apartment, Ethan Cole sat surrounded by data screens, wires, and the humming glow of alien tech borrowed from director Vrel. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, his fingers steady as he traced strange patterns across the floating hologram. For hours, the mysterious message had replayed in his mind, the mechanical voice whispering from deep space. We are the last. The swarm comes. It learns your voices. The sound didn't leave him. It followed him into every thought, every heartbeat. Even when he blinked, he could see the patterns burned behind his eyelids. In the next room, his daughter Lena watched from the doorway, holding her stuffed alien toy. Dad, she whispered, you didn't sleep again. Ethan smiled weakly. I will soon, sweetheart. I just have to finish this. She walked closer, peering at the floating symbols. It's talking again, isn't it? He nodded slowly. Yeah, and I think it's trying to tell me something new. Lena tilted her head, studying the glowing patterns like stars. It's pretty and dangerous, Ethan said softly. At that moment, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. Ethan quickly turned off the hologram and pulled Lena behind him. When he opened the door, Vrel stood there again. But this time, he wasn't alone. 2 armored guards waited behind him, their faces hidden by dark helmets. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You brought company. They're here for your protection, Vrel said. His voice was tense. The council intercepted fragments of the same signal. They think it's a trap. Ethan frowned. It's not a trap. It's a warning. Vrel stepped closer, lowering his voice. The council doesn't believe you. They believe you sent it. What? Ethan hissed. That's insane. They think you created the message to spread panic, Vrel continued. A human capable of decoding forbidden languages, suddenly predicting an invasion. They don't trust coincidences. Ethan felt anger rise in his chest. They don't want the truth, they just want someone to blame. Before Vrel could answer, a sudden pulse filled the room. The hologram, though deactivated, flickered to life again on its own. Lines of alien code burned brighter, forming a new sequence. Lena gasped. Dad, it's moving. Ethan turned toward the hologram. The message was rewriting itself. The original signal changed rhythm. Faster, louder. The voice returned, this time clearer, almost desperate. 5 days. Shadows in your orbit. They listen. They adapt. The lights in the apartment flickered violently. The air hummed with static. Vrel's guards drew their weapons, scanning for threats. Then, as quickly as it began, the sound stopped. The hologram went dark. Silence. Ethan exhaled slowly. It's alive, he murmured. That signal isn't just data. It's an intelligent system, self-modifying, reacting to our scans. It's learning in real time. Vrill's expression hardened. Then it knows we're listening. Ethan nodded grimly. And it's watching how we respond. He turned toward his console, pulling up a planetary map. If these coordinates are correct, the source isn't deep space anymore. It's closer, within the outer trade routes. Farrell's eyes widened. That's less than a week's travel from our orbit. Ethan's voice dropped low. 5 days, just like the countdown said. For the first time, Viral's calm broke. We have to inform the council. They must prepare defenses. They'll waste time debating, Ethan said. By the time they believe us, it'll be too late. Viral clenched his fists. Then what do you suggest? Ethan stared at the dead hologram, his reflection pale in the glass. We find proof they can't ignore. A signal strong enough to show the swarm is real. Something they can't deny, not even if they want to. Vrel nodded slowly. I'll arrange access to our deep space arrays. But if we're wrong, we're not wrong, Ethan said firmly. We're already on their radar. Outside, a low rumble rolled through the city, thunder without clouds. Vrel turned toward the window. That wasn't weather, he muttered, far above. A glowing streak cut across the night sky, a ship entering atmosphere, silent and burning. Then another. Then 5 more. Lena ran to the window, pointing. Dad, look! Ethan's stomach twisted. Those weren't ships from this system. Their design was cold, mechanical, alive in ways metal shouldn't be. The swarm, Ethan whispered. The guards raised their weapons as the first explosion bloomed in the distant sky. A wave of shocklight rolled across the horizon. Vrel grabbed Ethan's arm. We have to move, now! Ethan scooped Lena into his arms. His mind raced as alarms echoed across the city. He looked back once at the dead hologram on the table. The last words burned faintly in red. It learns your voices. And as they ran through the smoke-filled streets, Ethan knew one thing for certain. The machines weren't just coming for the galaxy. They were coming for him. The once bright city now burned beneath a red sky. Black smoke curled around the glass towers and alarms echoed through every street. Alien ships scrambled to form defense lines, their beams slicing through the clouds. But the swarm was everywhere, silent, cold, unrelenting. In the chaos, Ethan Cole and his daughter Lena were taken by security forces. They didn't listen to his warnings or his pleas. They dragged him to the Galactic Council Hall, a towering structure of white stone and blue fire. There, he was chained. Before thousands of alien delegates, cameras flashing from every angle, a deep voice announced through the hall, "The human Ethan Cole stands accused of spreading false information, inciting panic, and aiding the enemy." Ethan stood straight, his wrists bound, his eyes tired but fierce. The great chamber buzzed, with voices, hundreds of alien species whispering, laughing, judging. From the high seat, a thin alien judge with silver horns spoke. You were a janitor, not a scientist. Yet you claim to understand a code that our best linguists could not. Tell us, human, how did you come by such knowledge? Ethan met her gaze. By listening, something you've all forgotten how to do. Gasps rippled across the room. The judge's eyes narrowed. You mock this council? I'm warning this council, Ethan replied. The swarm is here. They've already entered orbit. You think this is about me? It's about survival. The crowd erupted in murmurs and shouts. Some aliens hissed insults. Others looked uncertain. From the side, Director Virel stepped forward. His robes were torn, his scales bruised, but his voice was calm. He speaks the truth, he said. I saw the ships myself. They destroyed our outer stations within minutes. The swarm is real. The judge's horns flickered with light. And yet, Director, your loyalty has been questioned. Vrel ignored her. Ethan Cole decoded the message before it happened. If we don't act now, there will be no council left to debate. But the judge slammed her staff against the floor. Enough. Humans have always been reckless, deceitful, and dangerous. We will not be tricked into war by one of them again. Ethan clenched his fists. You're making the same mistake you made with Earth, he said coldly. You ignored our warnings back then too. The hall fell silent. Varel turned to Ethan. They won't listen, he whispered. Ethan looked toward the giant holo display above the council floor. Then let's make them listen. He stepped forward, yanking free from his guards. His voice boomed across the chamber. You wanted proof? Fine. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black device, a data shard glowing with blue light. This is the raw signal, he said. You've all seen pieces of it, but you haven't heard the full message. The guards moved toward him, but Varel raised a hand. Let him speak. Ethan pressed the shard to the council's central console. The air filled with the cold metallic hum of the swarm's voice. We are the last. The swarm comes. It learns your voices. The words echoed around the chamber. But then, something new. A deeper sound followed. The message had changed again, adapting to the council's language. We are at your gates. The entire hall froze. Outside, faint tremors shook the building. Through the tall glass walls, the red sky flickered, dark shapes moving in the distance. Ethan turned slowly, his voice calm but filled with pain. You called me a liar, but they've already arrived. The judge stood speechless, her silver horns dim. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the chamber. The lights flickered, dust falling from the ceiling. Panic erupted. Delegates ran for the exits, guards shouted, and the great windows cracked under pressure. Varel grabbed Ethan's arm. The defense grid is collapsing. We have to get to the command center. Ethan looked toward the judge. Still think this is a human trick? She didn't answer. She just stared out the window in horror. Outside, massive shadow ships blotted out the sun. Black metallic things with moving spines and glowing cores. The swarm had come. As the hall crumbled, Ethan turned to Varel. Get my daughter to safety. I'll get to the communication tower. We still have one chance. Varel nodded, gripping his shoulder. You'll die if you go alone. Maybe, Ethan said, but if I don't, we all die anyway. He looked back at the sea of terrified aliens, the same ones who mocked him hours ago, and for the first time they looked small, helpless, human. He ran toward the collapsing corridor, smoke filling the air, alarms wailing. Behind him, the council's great banner fell from the ceiling, burning in red light. The last thing he heard as he disappeared into the smoke was the swarm's voice, echoing through every speaker, every system, every mind. We learn your fear. And Ethan whispered under his breath, then learn our strength. The Galactic Council Hall was gone. Smoke rose from the ruins like black claws tearing through the red sky. The sound of explosions rolled across the alien capital, followed by the deep metallic hum of ships, hundreds of them. The swarm had arrived. From the shattered corridors below, Ethan Cole pushed through falling debris, his hands bleeding as he pulled himself out of the wreckage. The air was thick with dust and electricity. Sparks jumped from shattered panels as he stumbled into the open street. Above him, the sky was alive with chaos. Alien warships fired bright blue beams that split through the clouds, hitting the black swarm ships. But the machines adapted. Their armor twisted and reshaped, absorbing each strike. Ethan's heart pounded. They're learning in real time, he muttered. Every shot teaches them how to survive the next one. He turned and saw Director Varel leading a group of survivors through the smoke. Guards, scientists, injured civilians. And right behind them, holding a small oxygen mask to her face, was Lena. Dad, she cried. Ethan ran forward, lifting her into his arms. I told you to stay with Varel. She wouldn't leave without you, Varel said, his voice strained. We've lost contact with the council. Half the defense grid is gone. Ethan looked toward the distant towers, and some still standing, others reduced to molten ruins. We need to reach the communications tower, he said. If I can access the deep array, I can broadcast a countersignal. Varel frowned. A countersignal? Against machines that evolve? Not against them, Ethan said, eyes sharp. To talk to them. Varel stared at him. You want to reason with the swarm? They've never shown mercy. Because no one's ever spoken their language, Ethan said. But I can. I understand their rhythm now. The voice in the signal, it's not just warning us. It's teaching us how they think. Before Varel could reply, a piercing scream filled the sky. One of the swarm ships dived, unleashing thousands of smaller drones, black spider-like machines with glowing red eyes. They rained down like sparks of death, tearing through buildings, slicing through streets. "Move!" Ethan shouted. They ran into a narrow service tunnel as explosions shook the ground. The walls rattled, dust falling from the ceiling. Lena clung to Ethan's neck, trembling. "Dad," she whispered. "They're everywhere." "I know, baby." "Hold on." Behind them, one of the drones forced its way through the tunnel entrance, its metal limbs scraping along the floor. It moved fast and too fast. Varel drew his weapon and fired. The blast hit the drone, but it absorbed the energy and kept coming. "It adapts," Varel shouted. Ethan spotted a power conduit on the wall and grabbed a metal rod. "Not to this." He jammed the rod into the conduit, sparks bursting out as he struck the drone. Electricity surged through the tunnel, frying the machine in a blinding flash. The drone collapsed, smoke rising from its body. Varel stared at him. "You think like one of them." Ethan gave a grim smile. "No, I just clean up messes." They reached the end of the tunnel, emerging into the city's lower sector. Fires burned everywhere. Alien civilians ran in panic while the swarm ships descended like dark angels. In the chaos, Ethan spotted the tall, needle-like communication tower still standing across the plaza. Its lights flickered, but the top was intact. "There," he said. "If we can reach the main console, I can send a pulse through every channel on this planet." Varel nodded. "Then we run." They sprinted through the ruins. Drones buzzed overhead, scanning the ground with red beams. Ethan ducked into the shadows, clutching Lena tightly. One drone paused above them. Its light passed over his face. Then, strangely, it stopped moving. The light turned blue. Ethan's breath caught. It recognized me. The drone tilted its head, almost curious, before flying away. "What was that?" Varel whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. "They know my voice." When they reached the base of the tower, the entrance was sealed by debris. Ethan handed Lena to Varel. "Get her inside when I clear this." He grabbed a fallen beam and used all his strength to pry open the door. His muscles trembled, but finally it gave way. Inside, the tower was half lit, panels sparking. Ethan rushed to the main console. The system flickered to life, alien symbols scrolling across the screen. He began typing rapidly, his fingers moving instinctively. "If I can merge the original swarm frequency with a human resonance pattern, I might be able to interrupt their hive link. Or you might call every one of them here," Varel warned. Ethan smiled faintly. "Then I'd better say something worth hearing." He hit the final key. A deep pulse rippled through the air, low and powerful like a heartbeat echoing across the stars. For a moment, the swarm ships froze in the sky. Their red lights flickered. The entire city fell silent. Lena peeked out from behind Varel. "Dad, what did you do?" Ethan looked up at the screen. "I told them to listen." And far above, in the black sea of clouds, the swarm paused, not retreating, not attacking, simply listening. The war had stopped for now, but Ethan knew this silence wasn't peace. It was the deep breath before the next storm. He looked at his daughter and whispered, "It's time they finally hear us." The sky above the alien capital was no longer red. It was silent and gray, filled with drifting ash and smoke. The swarm hung motionless in the upper atmosphere, their black ships frozen like shadows against the clouds. They weren't attacking, but they weren't gone either. In the middle of the ruined city, Ethan Cole stood inside the top chamber of the communication tower, surrounded by flickering lights and damaged equipment. His clothes were torn, his face streaked with soot, but his eyes were focused. He had done something no one thought possible. He had made the swarm stop. Below him, Director Varel and his guards worked frantically to stabilize the tower's systems. Lena sat quietly near the console, clutching her stuffed alien toy and watching her father. The silence outside felt heavy, almost alive. Varel looked up at Ethan. "They've paused, but they haven't withdrawn," he said. "Whatever you did, it confused them." "They're waiting," Ethan nodded slowly. "They're listening. That's what the signal was about all along. Someone tried to talk to them before, maybe another species, and failed. But now they've found a voice they understand." He tapped the console, replaying fragments of the swarm transmission. The same mechanical tones filled the air. "We are the last. We learn your voices. Ethan leaned closer to the mic. Then hear mine, he said quietly. The signal pulsed outward in waves. Outside, the ship shifted, thousands of glowing red eyes turning slowly toward the tower. The air vibrated with deep sound like a storm trapped in a cage. Vrel's guards backed away in fear. They're focusing on us, one shouted. Good, Ethan said. That means they're listening. He turned to Viral. You said your council never believed in unity with humans. Maybe it's time you see what a human can really do. Vrel stared at him, then nodded silently. Ethan took a deep breath and began to speak, not in human language, not even in the alien dialect, but in the rhythmic code of the swarm, blending tones, vibrations, and patterns. His voice shifted with strange harmony, carrying warmth and emotion even through the metallic distortion. The tower lights flickered. The air itself seemed to pulse with each word. He told them of Earth, a small world that never gave up. He spoke of kindness, struggle, loss, and the stubborn will to keep living. He spoke of his daughter, of how humans fight not to conquer but to protect what they love. Life is not something you devour, he said. It's something you share. If you keep consuming, there will be nothing left to learn. For a long time, there was only silence. Then the tower trembled. The holographic display flared, showing thousands of swarm units moving in perfect formation, not toward the city, but away from it. Vrel gasped. They're retreating. The room filled with soft blue light as the swarm ships began ascending through the clouds, vanishing into the cold darkness of space. The deep hum that had haunted the galaxy for centuries faded to nothing. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. His voice was raw, his body trembling. Lena ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck. Dad, you did it. He smiled weakly, hugging her close. I think we did. Vrel stepped forward, still staring at the sky in disbelief. They stopped the attack. You've done what no council, no army, no alliance could ever do. Ethan shook his head. No army could talk to them, he said softly. That's why they kept fighting. They weren't monsters, Vrel. They were trying to be heard. Vrel placed a hand on his shoulder. You are no janitor, Ethan Cole. You are the bridge between worlds. Ethan smiled faintly. I'll take janitor. Bridges still get stepped on. The director actually laughed. Tired, quiet, but real. Hours later, the fires across the city began to fade. Drones moved to help survivors. Messages spread through every corner of the galaxy. The swarm is gone, saved by a human's voice. Days passed. The council rebuilt. Statues were planned, awards offered, honors prepared. But Ethan refused them all. He just wanted peace. One evening, he stood on the balcony of a rebuilt tower, looking out at the stars. Lena sat beside him, swinging her legs, her hair catching the golden light. Dad? She asked softly. Are they gone forever? Ethan looked at the sky, quiet, endless, mysterious. No, he said. They're still out there, listening. Maybe learning something new. Like what? She asked. He smiled. Like how to hope. Lena leaned her head on his arm. You saved everyone, she whispered. Ethan looked down at her and shook his head. No, sweetheart. I just talked. The rest was them choosing to listen. The stars shimmered, and for a brief moment one of them pulsed, a single blue flash among the countless lights, as if the swarm was saying one final goodbye. Ethan smiled. See, they heard us. The night wind brushed past, soft and warm. For the first time in a long while, the galaxy was quiet, not from fear, but from peace. And somewhere in the heart of that silence, the simple voice of a human janitor had become a legend whispered across the stars.